welcome to another episode of Straight from the Desk. This time we will cover a fantastic topic. We will cover how to paint tattoos. I think most of the tattoos that we see on miniatures have the problem that they don't really look like they're under the skin. They look like a proper freehand, but you don't really have that subsurface look. So I'm trying to show you the techniques that I use to make my tattoos like they look, and yeah, hope you enjoyed that. I think for tattoos, tattoos are such a fascinating topic because you could choose from any motif, and it tells a lot about the owner. I'm sure a few of you guys also have tattoos, and you know, choosing a topic or choosing a motif is so important because it tells also a lot about the character that you're going to paint. It's also important to choose a picture that matches your ability to paint pictures in freehands. I'm going to show you a few little exercises to actually push your ability for freehands just a little. For freehands, it's really important to maintain the same distance and pressure on the tip of the brush so you can draw an equal line. And always remember, if the line turned out too thick, you can always correct it and make it thinner with the color that is laying underneath. Alright, so let's see what we decide for a tattoo for our all-Chinese guy. I've decided to paint a Japanese-style dragon tattoo. Let's see what Google offers us. If we look at the pictures, we can see really a huge variety of different style tattoos, and there is a lot that could inspire us. I'm looking for a picture that is more somewhat of a line art that really shows the significant feature of the dragon. If we take a closer look at the sketch that we found online, we can see these really prominent round eyes, the bushy eyebrows with that strong forehead, the long snout with the round nose, and the bushy bit here in the front, and the whiskers to the side of the head. We also have these pointy horns, some sharp claws, and of course the scales. Okay, so we've decided to give our old Chinese guy a dragon tattoo, and after analyzing what we like in the picture that we found online, we should start drawing our own motif. So here I've started with the dragon head, but if you're not a really good freehand painter, I think it's quite a good little practice if you just print it out in scale and use a parchment paper to see what details really stand out for you. And here, for example, these really significant round eyes with that strong forehead and the bushy eyebrows, the long nose, and so on. I think just sketching it in that scale already helps you and your hand to get to know the movement that it needs to do later on the figure. Alright, but before we start to actually paint the tattoo, we will mix the colors that we need, and we'll start with working in a bit of a three-dimensional breast because the bust is so flat. Alright. Alright, so here we are with our Chinese man just before we start adding the tattoos. And yeah, I'm really happy with the skin tone so far. And what we do is we need to remix our skin tone. So on the palette we have red beige from Model Color, some Japanese uniform, some light turquoise, some black, some Armor Brown from the Model Air range, and some Schmincke Titanium White. And we use some of the red beige together with some Japanese uniform and a bit of black. we can just take some of that tone here in an area where we have still some of that base skin tone and see how the color works. A larger area here. Fade it out a bit. Okay, we let that dry. It looks a bit more yellow and a bit more saturated, so I'm adding a bit of black. And a bit more of the red beige. Okay. And with a wet brush, just glazing that here. Okay, and I think that tone works actually already pretty good. Okay. Okay, for the tattoo color we will mix some of the light turquoise with some of the black. Actually pretty much black. And some of that skin tone. It's really important to already have some skin tone in the mix here, so the tattoo will look like it's under the skin. Before we start working in the tattoo, we have to think a little bit about the proportion, because here this area is actually quite long. So for a human proportion, the size of the head also indicates here like the area where the nipples would be and where the breast would end. So we're just working that in, so before we start actually doing the tattoo, using some of the Armor Brown, some of the skin tone and some black. And we will sketch them in here. Also here. Down there. And with a bit more skin tone in the mix and a bit stronger diluted, we can also sketch in like the middle line here for the breast. And with a bit of water in the brush, I'm just feathering that out here. And you can see it's only a very slight color difference, but that is what we want. So here towards the other side. And a bit darker. And we will also mix a highlight tone here, just adding a bit of white. You can use that to add a tiny bit of light. I switch to a bigger brush again. Size 1 Winsor & Newton. So I can work here better over the large areas. And just with the clean brush, try to feather it away. But you can see here we have like a small dried line. I want to get rid of that, and we're just using a slightly darker tone here. And again, feathering it out to the top. Oh, we let that dry. We can continue here, adding smaller highlights. More linear, like the starting point here of the breast muscle. Okay, a little bit more white. We're mixing the color slightly more opaque to add a little more pronounced highlights here at the edge. Okay, and again, a bit thinner. Okay, we don't really want something very pronounced for the whole breast, but just here slightly brighter on the edge. Okay, and a bit brighter skin tone here with some of the Armor Brown to sketch some highlights here on the nipples. And we'll just continue working on these lights here to really make them work as a fake three-dimensional breast. So a little here. okay and a bit thinner. And now working with medium glaze. We're also working here towards that light to get like a really soft highlight to both sides. And I think we're slowly getting there. We have to be careful not to add too much light down there. So we will also glaze here over the whole breast again. Here starting from the upper edge and then feathering it out. Okay, we'll let that dry, and I will also continue doing it on this breast, and we'll be back to show you how we continue on that. Alright, you can see I continued like we did before on the other breast, adding here these linear lines for the breast muscle, and we'll continue using some of that darker tone that we had here previously for the breast. We will work here with that tone that we had previously for the nipples. Maybe a bit more black in there. And we'll use that to indicate here the actual shadow of the breast muscle. Only a little bit here. And we'll use a glaze of that tone, a very light glaze, to glaze here towards the shadow. Okay, a bit heavier in the consistency, so like a medium glaze. Otherwise the glazing process here takes way too long. Okay, I think that's already okay. Here we indicated the middle line with darker tones. And it's quite nice because this way we can see the separation here with the highlights that we've painted, but we actually need to bring up the middle area again because it wouldn't receive any proper shadows. So we're working here with the light layer consistency, somewhere between light layer and heavy glaze, and we will just start adding that here. And we will also use the same tone to connect these here a bit. Okay, and with some of that mid-tone glaze. And just glaze here a little bit over those strong shadows. A bit brighter. The area here in between. And with that brighter glaze also here from the upper edge of the muzzle downwards to get the same intensity of light. The nice thing is also, because we were using the same tones here as a glaze, we also make sure that once we start with the tattoos, we actually have the same tones underneath. And using a size 2 Winsor & Newton, I will create a glaze from that Armor Brown and glaze that here over the breast from the lower side. If you remember correctly, for the face we also did these Armor Brown glazes in the warm color zone, and it's quite nice because it pushes the colors that we've used more into a reddish direction. This way we can also introduce like a more global shadow. This way we can make sure that the focus stays here on the upper part. Okay, you can see how I tried to avoid that the color is, or the really thin glaze or the water here on the surface is actually pooling, so I'm just taking the brush and carefully wiping off that extra amount that would pool. This way we can achieve a really nice gradient. Okay, I think that looks already pretty cool. I will also add a bit more highlight color here and work that in a diagonal way, so more like this, because our light comes slightly from the left. So we start here applying the light glaze, then cleaning the brush, and we're just feathering it all the way, wiping it off and just pulling it here over the edge. Okay, nice, we let that dry and we'll be back for the tattoos. Alright, before we start with the actual tattoo, we will do a little quite useful freehand practice technique. So we'll use that tattoo tone that we had before, mixed from some light turquoise, some model color black, and some of our skin tone. And this step is quite nice actually to find also the perfect consistency for us. So we're working with a short hair brush from Da Vinci, and we're working first starting here with a heavy layer tone. And you can see here I have a piece of primed white plastic card, and we were just trying to actually do our signature, because we don't have to really think about our signature, and we want to achieve a consistent line. Okay, you can see that actually it was quite okay consistency wise, but I think we want to have it a little bit thinner so it flows a little bit better out of the brush. So we're working more with a medium layer consistency. And you can see now this is actually a bit too liquid. So the consistency before was actually a bit better. So let's try it again. Okay, works fine for the consistency check. You can also draw lines. Alright, so for our freehand practice we are continuing trying to get like even parallel lines. Also it's good for us to really find like a good speed also that we need to draw like a straight line. It's good to practice like the kind of lines that you use in your freehand. So if you have more straight lines, practice some straight lines. For more like curvy freehands, it's the signature technique is really quite nice. So and you can see here what I'm slightly struggling with is to get an equal line you really want to have the same distance and pressure on the brush. So the distance to the surface needs to stay the same. I'm usually stabilizing myself here with my little finger just to be able to draw more straight lines. Here for our Chinese guy we will go for a dragon tattoo, and we can also practice elements that we will have a lot on the model, for example dragon scales. Okay, I will continue also with a little bit of the freehand practice, and then we'll go straight to the model. Alright, so here we are with the model, and we'll start with the tattoos. We will use the color in heavy layer consistency, as it showed up in the practice. It was actually a little bit better with a heavier consistency. So just wiping off the extra amount of paint on the brush, and this is also a good step to see and hide little mistakes. So here, for example, you can see there's like a a drop where some glaze didn't really dry in the same glossiness, and I want to hide that definitely also with the freehand mark. So we'll first start with the outlines of our dragon head, and we will do that bit by bit. So we'll first start with the eye, and I think I would want to place that just here next to the drop. Okay. And here in the upper part of the brow line. Okay. Upper elements here. Just prolonging that part here from the eyebrow to create like the starting point of the forehead. I'm adding some of the base color of the skin tone here, and I'm just correcting the lines that I did previously. I like to correct the lines in between just every now and then, so I can make sure that I really get like a sharp level of detail in before I continue with like a more complex freehand. So first make this part look good before I continue with the next one. Okay, then second side of the eyebrow here from the side. And the folds here on the nose or on the snout. Okay, and the nostril here to the front. The snout. A little bit here of the cheekbone. And some teeth here. Ah. Okay. And now these, it's not really whiskers, but it's like a fur-like element here to the front. And some fangs here. We also need those typical whiskers. Actually, it's not whiskers, but I'm not sure of the correct term. Here in the upper area we will continue with the horns of the dragon. Okay, so here the bulky head in the back. And here the second element of the eyebrows. Okay, and the second whisker also here from the front. Adding a bit more water here to the mix to maintain the same consistency. And here a little bit of also some visible teeth and a bit of the lower jaw. Okay, let's mix a little bit lighter skin tone here for the areas up here with the horns, as we added a little bit more highlight tone there underneath. We need to keep about the same brightness here for the correction of our work, of our line. You have to avoid to make these lines here look like highlights, so make sure they're about the same tone. Okay, a little bit darker. Okay, nice. And we will continue with the lower jaw. First, a small tooth in here. We want the lower jaw to be quite a bit smaller and thinner. But still with some of these typical fur elements to the front. Okay, and also some teeth here for the lower side. Okay, and again with some of the base skin tone, we are refining these teeth here. We'll just add a bit of water. Okay, and we will use some of the tattoo color here, a bit more diluted, so like a heavy glaze. And we'll use that here to darken the inside of the mouth. Alright, so this is how the dragon looks now. And let's start moving to the other side of the chest. For the other side of the chest, I want to balance that side out, but I don't want to add another dragon's head here. I think it would get too busy, but I think I like the idea of having a dragon running all over his body. So here we will have the end of the tail. To remix our base tone here. And we're going to use it in a medium, between medium and heavy layer consistency. Okay, and measuring here where I want the top part to be. Okay, I'm not 100% happy with the curvature, so I will see how I can solve that problem here in the shape. So I started adding here a few lines to get a good middle line, and I'm going to create like a fin. Hey, I like that a lot more, so we'll just continue detailing that here. Some correction work, the skin tone. Okay, and I'm also erasing this bit here, just by dabbing a bit of the mid skin tone over it. We give that a second to dry. And here we're continuing this line here. Okay, I like that a lot more. And this indicates here the middle line for the fur-like texture in the middle. Okay, and again with a bit of the base skin tone. I'm just looking for a bit here on the palette that is not mixed too much with anything else. I'm adding a bit of the armor brown because here in the lower part we've added quite some armor brown before. We give that a second to dry. It doesn't need to be 100% the same tone because that part here will be covered with scales anyways. Okay, for the scales I'm first adding the lines here for the first row of scales. And then I'm adding the curve here on the top. Okay, again the same. And always from the middle line of the scale to the middle line of the next scale. Okay, and for the tail we will use some of that mixed tone that has been here, not really mixed on purpose, but it's some of the dark sea blue with more of the skin tone. And we will use that fairly thin as a heavy glaze. And we will use that here on each of the scales. Trying to leave a small lighter line of the skin tone there. And with a bit more blue, or a bit more of the blue-black mix here, you can increase the darkness here towards the end of each scale. And I'm carefully gradually getting darker here with the glazes that I apply. Now just that dark to two-tone, then down to medium glaze. Okay, so we just continue here using glazes to push the contrast. I'm using the shadows here to really get a nice separation between the individual scales. And with some of that darker tone, I'm making sure that I really get the definition here of the lines correct. Even adding a bit of black here to the mix to get it slightly darker. Using the darker paint here to get a better definition of the different elements, so the scale part and the middle line here. Okay, and we will use our mixed tone with the skin also to get a little bit of a shading here on the dragon. So just with this clean brush, feather that out. And we use that shading process here to get a nice definition between the different elements. So, for example, here where the horns are separated, or here under that eyebrow. Also here. I already like the look quite a lot, but I will just continue defining some of the shadows here. And something that we can also do, and I think the effect is quite nice, is we can just take a little bit of a very light glaze here of our shadow tone, and just glaze that here over all the scales in the lower half here. To also get like a bit of a shadow over the whole element. Let that dry, and once it's dry we can continue. We better do that as careful as we can, because we don't want to ruin the work that we've done previously. Alright, I think I will just continue redefining the shape, and we'll be back to add some additional details. Okay? Alright, so here I think we should add like a claw. I've also added like the other claw on the other side. And that is what we'll do now. And also some lines here on the skin. And slightly darker here. Okay, and I think I really like the tattoo so far. What we will do now is we will glaze some skin tone over the tattoo to really make it look as if it would be under the skin. And it's especially important where we have the strong highlights, because the highlights would run over the actual tattoo. We will first start here with the general transition of the breast. So you can see we have the base tone here for our skin. And I'm adding a bit of titanium white. More of the skin tone. We're using that in a light glaze consistency. You can see we start here with the upper edge of our breast muscle. Okay, cleaning the brush and feathering it out here to the lower side. Same on the other side here. Okay, we let that dry. And we have to repeat that step a few times to really make it work. Okay, clean the brush and feather it out. And remember, when we painted in our fake breast volumes, we also glazed in that diagonal direction to indicate that our light is coming from the left side. And that is what we will do now, again over the actual image. A bit brighter. Here over the tattoo. And a bit brighter here in the highlight area. Clean brush and feathering that out. And you can see it already looks quite different than just a few glazes ago, and you can just continue like that. What we will also do is we'll take a bit of the glaze thin it down a bit. We're working really with a super light glaze here, and we're using that here over our fake volumes that we've sketched in before, and also add that over the tattoo. Also, if you highlight something up like this part up here, make sure you still maintain the shape of the highlight that you've been painting previously. And it's really nice to see how just these few glazes really make the tattoo look like it's quite under the skin, and it follows also the highlight situation quite a lot better now. Okay, we'll also add some glazes of the shadow color. We'll use a glaze of Alma Brown for that, and we'll use that also in a light consistency, and we'll use that also in a light glaze consistency. I think really in an area like here, the shoulder is so nice to see the difference of the shadow area and the highlight area. Okay. And also again here. Also some shadow color here for the back of the shoulder. And here we need quite a bit of a highlight glaze in the brush. And you can see we also add that here on the top. A bit brighter. And with a clean brush. just feather that out. Okay. Again, a bit thicker this time. And also some glazes with the armor brown as a shadow color. I already really like that look. I will also introduce a bit more of the armor brown here in that area. Okay, I think just a few glazes and we are done with the tattoos. And I think it's really you can decide to go for a super complex picture. This year's also like a medium complexity picture. I mean, if you see other people's work, it's super amazing what they can do freehand wise. You can also go for something that is quite a bit simpler. That's the nice thing about tattoos. You can actually just make it fit to your own personal ability of drawing freehands, just like the tattoo artist. There is a huge difference from jail to jail. No, just kidding. But I think this year really shows you quite well how important it is that you have that reflectivity of the skin underneath the tattoo to make it really work as something that is under a layer of skin. Alright. Okay, now that the old guy is painted, I think he turned out really fantastic. I kept the tattoos rather simple because I didn't want to have them overpower the face. I'm really happy with the lights and the look of the skin tone in the face, so I think the focus should stay there. I mean, you can do whatever you want with tattoos, so you can go for a full Yakuza bodysuit or a simple heart just saying mom. You can do really whatever you want. I would be so happy if you share the results of your tryouts here on the Patreon channel. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the video and thanks for your support. Alright, bye!
$20㗎啦，嗱，8收而家24蚊。